See, the learning is fixed. It is not like you have a set of things, no, foundation courses, elective courses, then core courses, then research and methodology. Like to cater to all the graduate attributes, you have set of courses. And these courses, within that you have some choice, but these courses are fixed, right? So the learning is fixed and the time to achieve the learning is variable. Okay, that cannot be determined. It requires that the students demonstrate that they have learned the required skill and content. So you have in this outcome-based education, you have the outcome-based assessment. So you assess the student whether whatever has been defined or whatever has been spelled out in this outcome has been achieved or not. Okay, so that is when you talk about the assessment, you go into it. So it requires that the students demonstrate. So they have to see, how will you assess once if they demonstrate, once they will show or explain or say or write or something, then only you can say that they have achieved, isn't it? So it requires that student demonstrate that they have learned the required skills and content. Okay. So you might be knowing that William Spady, 1994, he was the person who was involved in it, and OBE involves organizing an education system around what is essential for all students to be able to do successfully at the end of the learning process. Okay, according to his definition, he says that OBE, that is outcome-based education, involves organizing an education system around what is essential for all students to be able to do successfully at the end of the learning process. So here, identify what is important for the students able to do. Like these are the examples: organize the curriculum, instruction, assessment to ensure the learning happens. So in this OBE, in the outcome-based education, okay, so what is important is what the students will be able to do. Okay, so that always they have kept the thing in at the end. Okay, so what the students will be able to do after graduation, or after, that is the program outcome, and then after each course, right? So that is what. So that is main. And in that, thinking in that term, the curriculum, the instruction, the assessment, that these are the very important points, isn't it? So that also has been organized in such a way. So only we call it as outcome-based curriculum, outcome-based, because we always do our instruction, our teaching learning process, our, assessment, everything aligned to this outcome-based curriculum, right? So what are the assumptions it has made is excellence is for every student and not for just a few. See, it is giving that every student should be able to do this one, isn't it? It does not give, okay, like this set of type of students, nothing like that. These are the assumption it has made, and we are doing it, right? So excellence is for every student and not for just a few. So whoever is being admitted into your course or your program, you say, first we'll take it as a program, okay? Your maybe B civil or B, we are talking about the undergraduate, okay, and that to tier 2, right? So in that case, whenever they get admitted, that means there should be learning, okay? You cannot say there are some people who cannot learn because they have the eligibility and they have come to that. So there will be a lot of questions also, like a lot of debates also whenever I talk about this one, right? So people will ask me, Madam, we should have a very, strict admission. We should not give admission to everyone, and we are not able to take that, and we cannot, all those things are there. I do agree. There are many lacunas in our things in our system where you have it, right? If you have a very bright, you can say that. But here, what OBE assumption is, any student, okay, there should be some data exchange in their learning, okay? So that means no student is left out. Every student, and that too here, excellence is for every student and not just for few. And all students can learn, but not all in the same time or in the same way. That everybody knows it, right? So I can again emphasize that, what do you say? Like, one second. you can say that every learner is unique. Fine. Every learner is unique, and I may be a slow learner. I may take 2 days to learn a concept or a procedure. Maybe my co-learner may be a very fast learner. He will do it very fast. Okay. And maybe I want a lot of resources, like maybe some videos will help me to work because some visuals or graphics or videos, or some people, my co-learner, when he hears from his friend or a teacher or some colleagues or whoever it is, they learn better. So what we have to understand is every learner is unique and they cannot learn in the same pace or same time or the same way. Okay, so that is another assumption. So then successful learning promotes more successful learning, right? So that is also there. So whenever, no, like when you encourage motivated learners learn more, and success, when you just do that, that promotes more success. And then preparing students every day for success the next day. So this you have achieved. What is the next? Like a game, right? So we always have a goal and then we try to achieve that, right? So likewise, it has to be done. These are the assumptions. So to make every human a success and no human a failure, these are the assumptions by this OBE concept. Okay, the 4 essential principles are there. One is the clarity of focus. Another, this is, if you look into this book Spady by Spady, it gives about these 4 essential principles of outcome-based education. What is it is clarity of focus, designing back, high expectation, and expanded opportunity. What is it? What is it? Can you tell me? Right? So the clarity of focus is focus entire teaching learning process on clearly defined learning outcome. Here, the goal or the what has to be achieved or what the student have to achieve has been clearly spelled out. Okay. So the entire teaching learning process should be on clearly defined learning outcome. So only we say that learning outcome. So whenever a teacher is assigned a course, okay, first, whether he is a new teacher or an experienced teacher, whatever it may be, what is the first job? Tell me, like, let us have a little bit of discussion on that. Okay, I can put it on, maybe you can chat, use the chat. Okay. Hope everyone is, you can use your chat, right? So let us say we are all teachers, maybe your department head or whoever it is, like they will give you a course. What is the first job of whenever a course is being given to you? What do you do? So the semester is starting, a course is being given to you. And of course, you are an accredited institute, you are working in an accredited institute. So what is the first job you will be doing it? Come on, I can ask questions, no?
You can ask the question, no problem.
Yes. Anyone, just you can say either you can unmute or you can just put it in the chat according to your wish. Yes, Manikandan sir.
We should define our course CO, madam.
Okay, okay, right. Anyone? My dear
Any participants? Participants, please answer the question.
There are around 45 people here. Okay. I'll just put off my office. Hello. Good afternoon, sir. Sir, I will explain, because I was also in the same thing. But I'm in the class, sir. I will come and explain. Okay, no problem, no issues. No, he was, the same argument was going on with me also. Then I said, no, see, he is also saying, no, if you are not able given the phone. So only I get, don't worry, sir, please. Yeah. Because I was on the same opinion what you had said. So only I gave the phone, otherwise I will never. So, but then I thought, okay, I should have not, because since it is in the combined name only, I have put it. Otherwise, I could have given some. Oh, sorry for the disturbance. There was an urgent call, so
No problem.
So I had to give my reason there. Now I have put down the phone. Fine. No idea, ma'am. Oh God, sir, Javed, sir. Like, you see, you are handling some courses. You are handling some courses. CSE, computer science, engineering background, isn't it?
Javed sir. Hello, Javed sir.
He has put no idea, ma'am.
No
Yes,
idea.
ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, sir. So my question was, when a course is being given to you, what is your first reaction or first act, not reaction, action, first action for as a teacher, as a profession, okay? So what do you do? Okay, if there is no idea, okay, let me say maybe you will be all doing it, but if you have not done it, please do it. First thing is, if a course is being given, you have to look into the course outcome. Okay, what is your course? You have to go to the curriculum. Just don't look into the syllabus alone. Okay, don't look into the syllabus alone. Take the curriculum, the full set. What is your program outcome? Okay, then what is, before that, what is your program specific, that is the PEOs, program educational objectives, and then POs. POs you might be knowing because it will be displayed all around in your departments, labs, websites, everywhere. And then you have to know it, and particularly you have to know this course outcome. So from the top, you have to know what is the vision of your institute wherever I am working. What is the vision of my institute or organization where I am working? What is the vision? What is the 5-year plan they have done it? Okay, what we have to achieve? Because we are all part of it, isn't it? We are all part of it. Unless otherwise, you teacher, if you are not going to contribute, then there will be no, what is it? It cannot be achieved. See, the stakeholders, particularly the teachers, okay? So there are, okay, of course, students, teachers, parents, industry, everyone is there. But if you take particularly the teacher has to know what is the vision of my institute, what is the vision of my department, the mission statement, and then when you come to your program, let us say CSE or civil or mechanical, what is the program educational objectives? Unless otherwise I know, I cannot go much further into it. I cannot work towards it. And then the next thing is, when a course is being given, I have to go and check out what is the course objective, course outcomes, particularly course outcomes. And whether you have to just think before putting your course plan, okay? Then you go for the lesson plan. Then I have to check whether after giving all the classes, handling all the classes or theory or practical, whatever is being given in the outcome, whether my students will be able to demonstrate or perform or do. Okay, that is what you have to do it. So the first step is look into your course outcome. Other things you have to do it. So my question was, when a course is being whether as soon as you are into a part of a system, you should know the vision, mission, all those things. When a course is being assigned to you, you should know the course outcome. Okay, so because why I'm emphasizing it, all our teaching learning process and assessment is being oriented towards that learning outcome. Okay, so designing back, starting from clearly defined, so only the saying, starting from clearly defined learning outcome. So you start from the clearly, that is a clearly defined outcome. Then identify the building blocks of learning that student must achieve to reach the long-term outcome. So first is the course outcome, and then what is it? What is your program outcome? So only the COPO mapping also you could have studied, or you might be doing learning it, right? Fine. So then 1 second. Am I not able to move? Am I audible? Am I audible? Right? Yeah.
Yes, madam. Yes, madam.
Yes.
No problem.
Then the third one, third one is high expectations. Okay. So always we have to set a high benchmark, a high expectation, setting high challenging standards of performance. Okay. So always when you say, okay, the pass mark is 50 or 40 or something, very cool, no, our students, no, nothing like that. So mostly instead of the marks, it should be the competencies. Okay, you should be able to perform. If you are able to demonstrate this, then I will give you the marks or grades or whatever it is required. So setting high challenging standards of performance. So even it is in the course, even in your outcomes, everywhere it has to be reflected. Okay, setting high challenging standards of performance. Why we are all doing this? Because to increase the quality of education and to become, because it is a very competitive world and you have to attract, there are many reasons why OBE, why accreditation, why ranking, all those things, because you want your students to come and join your institute. That is not the only thing you want to do. You want to produce something like if the teaching, learning, the learning environment, the learning space, whatever you give to your students will create many things for you and your institute. Okay, so a lot of research will be there, a lot of projects, through projects, everything will be there, right? So you have to really set high challenging standards. In turn, we will also, as a teacher also, as a department also, as an institute also, we will be benefited. So setting high challenging standard of performance. To encourage students to put in their best. Successful learning promotes more successful learning. That is what. So you have always, it should be best like that. Okay. See, let us say if in a class you don't motivate them, or if you don't set high standard, definitely people will take it for granted. Okay. Okay, madam, it was very good. So she will give me some pass mark. I will just pass. So what is the use of it? Okay, getting the pass mark and all those things. So that I have always, everybody, like a mantra you should have. Then expanded opportunities. All learners cannot learn by the same way and in the same time. Most students can achieve high standards if they are given appropriate opportunities. Students have to learn what they need to learn, not by a particular method or by some arbitrary point in time. So these are the opportunities. Like, yes, you are setting a standard, then all the people cannot meet the standard at the same time. Okay, given the resources required for him and given that time, everybody can do it, but it varies. Okay, that you have to understand. You cannot say, okay, I have given I have done an excellent lecture, I have given whatever required for the students, but only few do it and others are not doing it, because you should understand there are different types of learners. They may be visual, kinesthetic, auditory, like different types of learning styles are there. Learning time is required. So only we say that differentiated instruction, okay, differentiated, maybe in teaching learning process also you might be doing, okay, differentiated instruction, it cannot be the same instruction. So appropriate different resources has to be given. Fine. So these are the things. So only if you look into the whole outcome-based education as a whole, these are the opportunities it is giving, okay? Like most students can achieve high standards if they are given appropriate opportunities. That who is going to create the learning environment, the teachers, the institute has to do that. Students have to learn what they need to learn, not by a particular method. See, you cannot say you have to learn by this method only. I have given notes, everybody should read only to the book or notes. No, there are the media, the now information is ubiquitous, and a lot of they are all multimodal learners, and they can learn at any time. Okay, so this is what the 4 essential principles. I'm just making it short so that you get the essence. So when you say the curriculum is a dynamic and includes all the learning experience provided for the students. It encompasses the learning environment, teaching method, resources provided for the learning, and the system of assessment and the school ethos. This is the definition of the curriculum. Okay, so the curriculum is a continuous improvement process, right? And it's only this dynamic. It can be anything. Sometimes because of the affiliation and other things, you don't have that dynamism in the tier 2 institute. I do agree, but generally speaking, we have this. You should have. It should be dynamic and includes all the learning experience. So here there was a question, madam, we belong to an affiliated institute. So we don't have, we cannot change our curriculum. We are not autonomous. Then what, how can you do this? Outcome-based education will work. You say all these things. See, there also you can bring a lot of things. Okay, that is fixed. But the learning outcomes is there. Here itself, we have a lot of gaps. So as a teacher, let us say, because I always argue in the because I'm a teacher, so you're also in the teaching profession. So how do I look at? So if a course is given, I look in for the course curriculum, course outcomes, and then you should also, that the teacher should also look at the industry or look at the market. What this course is going to do in the market, how it is there. See, your curriculum may be maybe for 2 years or 5 years old curriculum, but what is being applied in the industry or in the market, okay, that the teacher can bridge the gap. Okay, so you have to find out as a teacher, okay, there is some gap between the academic and the industry. So in that cases, so you have lot of things you can add it as a curricular activity itself, taking them to industry or bringing the industry people here, or having some MOUs with the industry, because then only our students will be able to what do you say, see what is happening. If we teacher doesn't know what is happening in our subject, how it has been applied, just like that, if you take the real world examples or all those things will not be available. So like we have to do no, like we have to see what is happening, just, and it should not be just see what it is and how you have to do it, and all that has to be documented also. Okay, how many visits you have made it to the industry, what is a talk you have done, and then how you are going to bring that. See, people, when you talk to them, no, only thing, even me, in the beginning, I never go out or talk to the person. Sometimes if they come, whatever is necessary, we do it in the beginning. But no, if you go, either they come, or if you go, they are very helpful. Okay, they just 1-2 times, if you go to that industry and you say that you're a teacher, you want to do this, that, definitely the second or third time, no, they will come out with some plan, and you can go with an action plan, how you can put all those things. So that is who will do the institute, means the teachers within the institute has to do that, right? Fine. Okay, now coming into the outcomes in the OBE. It's the model hierarchy of outcomes. That is the vision, mission of the institute and the department. All these things you could have learned how to do it and all those things. It should sync with the department vision and mission should sync with the vision and mission of the institute. And then you have 2 to 4 program educational objectives. And then you have the program outcomes and the learning outcomes, that is the course outcomes. Okay. So this is the model hierarchy of the outcomes. Fine. Now, so it is interrelated and complementing each other. And that is vision, mission, program, educational objectives, or the long-term outcomes. Program outcomes and learning outcomes, or you call it as a course outcomes, are all the short-term outcomes. Okay. So generally, the outcome-based education is based upon the outcomes, right? So you have the long-term outcomes and the short-term outcomes. Okay. Then, right. So then you have this graduate attributes. Who has given the Washington Accord? That they have given the graduate attributes, 12 graduate attributes for the undergraduate program, like that 10 or 6 graduate attributes for each one, maybe for the diploma or for the masters. Now we are talking about the undergraduate programs. Yes, isn't it? Undergraduate programs. So if you want to know the details about it, you can go to this NBA accreditation board. There, the recent document is there. 2019 they have done, but they have followed the 2016-15 pattern only. There is no some changes. If there is any changes, they will update it. And when you are applying for the SAR, you have to look into it and then do it, right? So basically, this mostly it will not make a big change, right? So set of outcomes that are indicative on the graduate potential to acquire competency to practice at the appropriate level. Okay. And then the example is design solution for complex engineering problems, apply modern engineering tools to complex engineering activities. Okay. Right. Fine. So now, see, you could have seen about this program educational objectives. They are specific goals describing the expected achievement of the graduate in their career and professional life after graduation. Okay. So after graduation, so program education objectives should be consistent with your vision of the higher education institutes, and it should be responsive to the expressed interest of the various groups of the program stakeholders. Okay. So then how to do all those things and all, I am not going to talk about it here. Right. Now coming to the program outcomes. Okay, because I can talk for 3 hours on vision, mission, and PEOs, right? I think you could have already had it. It should not overlap, or it should not be a redundant one. Okay, so the program outcomes or or if you have any clarification, you can ask me. Program outcomes are the statements describing what students are expected to know, to be able to perform or attain at the time of graduation, that is after completing the program. See, the program outcomes are related to skill, knowledge, behavior that the student acquires through the program. Okay, linked to the program, and it is also linked to the program educational objectives. Say, for example, design electronic system that meets the desired specification and requirement, ability to design and conduct experiment, ability to work effectively in a team. So these are some of the program outcomes. Okay, short-term outcomes at the time of graduation. Okay, now the course outcomes are, I'm just giving all those things, 4 outcomes. No, one is the vision, mission, and the statement, and the PEOs, then POs and COs. These are the 4 outcomes. Okay, then course outcomes are the statement that describe what the students are expected to know or able to perform or attain after the completion of a course. Okay, so the course here, it is student focused, yeah, very specific, and it should be measurable or observable. So whenever you take a course, you can write the course outcomes there. Okay, so let us say, use something for designing this, or there are many examples. Okay, course outcomes, you can say, okay, identify the issues and challenges, or apply this theory to solve this type of particular problem, or you can say to design, or so many things. Okay, it depends upon the different types of different levels in the cognitive taxonomy. I'll come to that later. Okay, so one thing here, it should be student focused, and it should be because it should not be teacher focused, it should be student focused, what the students will be able to do at the end of the teacher. See, the teacher, the outcome should not be that, okay, okay, they will learn Java programming. They will learn Java programming is not a outcome. Okay, why it is not an outcome? Because how can I measure they have learned Java programming? Okay, so people will write, no, whenever we say, no, give your outcomes. Okay, they'll write learn Java programming to write something like that. So instead of that, you should always start with a specific or action verbs. Okay, the students will be able to write a Java program to solve multi-threading, something like that. Like that you have to do it. So learn, understand, these are very generic words. I come into that deeper. Okay, so you should not use the general words. Okay, you should not appreciate, get familiarized, learn, study, knowledge of something. All these you should not write it, because here how to write program outcomes. You should not write with the general words. Okay, it should be specific. It should be specific. So that too student focused, what the students will be able to do or perform or attain or whatever it is. So you have to always describe in that things. Okay, so where you just see whenever you have in your curriculum, there will be no, if it has been written properly, there will be no such specific there will be no such general verbs. Understand, explain is specific. Okay, they'll be able to explain. Understand, appreciate, familiar, then what else? Learn, study, then all these things are all very generic. Only thing you have to just think whether I can measure or observe. Understand means how much they have understood, this much or this much. That you cannot do it, no. So it should be measurable or observable. So in that cases, only the action verbs will give you the right thing. Okay, that is how whenever you construct a course outcome, you should be using very specific and student focused things. Okay, we will do much in detail. So I have given what is what, right? So outcome based education, we have seen these things. Program outcomes as stated by NBA represent the knowledge, skill, attitude of the student should have at the end of the 4-year engineering program in India. Right, so here I'm just particularly talking about the nation, this particular country. So I have just put in here. So as stated by NBA, okay, National Accreditation Board or National Board of Accreditation, represent the knowledge, skill, and attitude the student should have at the end of the 4-year engineering program. Then course outcome, they are the resultant knowledge, skill the student acquires at the end of the course. It defines a cognitive process a course provides. Okay, it defines the cognitive process. How much, okay, how we'll go, what is cognitive process we'll do. Then program education objectives are broad statement that describe the career and the professional accomplishment in 5 years after graduation that the program is preparing the graduate to achieve. Okay, so that is the program educational objectives. They are broad statement. So what they describe their career, their professional accomplishment. PSO, that is a program specific outcomes is there that describe what the graduate of the specific engineering program should be able to do. Even if it is a mechanical, sometimes your college may be near this automobile thing. So they will be putting almost all the electives according to that one. Okay, you will have a lot of MOUs, so it will be very specific. All your engineers, mechanical engineers, will be energy engineers, because they may be working with maybe wind energy or solar energy like that. So, or like, let us say, for example, civil engineering. So where they have that multidisciplinary of IoT and all those things, or GIS, something. So there they will have a lot of civil computer applications and all those things. So whatever it may be, if there is, see how they are different. How a mechanical engineer of your college is different from a mechanical engineer of another college. Okay, because there are so many things. Some electives or some lot of courses, few courses you have it, which will be very specific, where you can say that we are going to train, or sometimes you can say that our things will be based upon the Gandhian philosophy. In that cases, whatever Gandhian philosophy is there, all our courses, all our programs should be oriented towards. So it should always match with your their vision, mission, and specific outcomes. Okay, right. Okay, so deriving COs, POs from graduate attributes and mission. So for your mission will be there, the graduate attributes is there. So then your program outcomes is being given by this NBA, that is the Washington Accord. That's to be derived. Okay, fine. So what are competency for a electrical engineer or a civil engineer? Sometimes our students will not be able to know few basic core which is very, very fundamental for that things. Okay, don't go to the next one. These things, that is the minimum requirement also, they will not be able to meet, but they could have passed the subject and they could have got the degree certified. I am an civil engineer, I am a mechanical engineer, like that. But when you test their knowledge and the skill, no, you feel very pathetic. Like we will feel very sorry for that. So you have to tell the students also, see, you are going to become an engineer. The basic things and all you have to learn it. Because you should not make it a big thing, right? Like particularly, you know, when it comes to this tier 2 affiliated college, I know that people from all different types of background, they come. Some will come with interest. Most of them will come just for getting their degree. All those things are happening, but we should tell them, okay, this is what in the first orientation, no? Orientation, the first year itself, you have to pull them and put it in this thing, or you have to say that, okay, this is not for you. Now itself you go out, right? That is what, because simply getting and then putting like that is not up to me. This is my personal remark, right? So apply the knowledge of mathematics, science, engineering fundamentals, and engineering what is it, specialization. So engineering knowledge. Then problem analysis. See, I would also tell you, in 21st century, if anyone wants to be employable, what are the skills required? What are the skills required? Let us say your graduate, like your students have graduated, they have got maybe some CGPA of 8 or above that also, they are employable. But not everybody is employed, isn't it? There is some people get employment and some people are not employed. So, okay, others go, some people go for higher studies, some people go for entrepreneurship, they start their own startup and other things. That's the whole thing, they want to get employed. But when they want to get employed, but they are not employed, means there is some problem. What is that problem? What do they look into the students, of our students? So what is missing in them? So they call it as a 21st century skills. Can you name that, what it is? 21st century skills. So you can, if you see that even in our national education policy, anywhere if you see that the framework, everywhere it says that our students should be able to possess these skills, then only they will be employable in this 21st century. So what are they? So one is the communication, then collaboration, not in order, I'm just telling: communication, collaboration, critical thinking and problem solving, creativity and innovation. So I can say the 4 C's. The 4 C's are critical thinking and problem solving. Okay, it is not only for engineers, it is not only for diplomats or anyone who wants to be employable in this 21st century. They have to possess, there are many skills required. I'm just grouping it as learning and innovation skill, that we call it as 4 C's. The 4 C's are critical thinking, apart from the course, okay, apart from your course subjects, okay, they should be able to communicate, they should be able to collaborate. Collaborate means work in a teams, okay. So we have to do it, right? So now even for our project submission also, we have to collaborate with some foreign university. Now it is not that, okay, what is whether Indo-German, Indo-Spain, Indo-French, like that, okay. So it is required, okay, unless that is, I'm talking about the teachers. Here, the students, they should work. When they come out of the things, they have to collaborate with so many, with their colleagues, with their peers, with their other external, what is it, with the globe, whoever it is. So collaboration. And then critical thinking and problem solving, that is the main thing, okay. Critical thinking, if they have to think, right? Solution can be, see, if you are able to think and problem solving, okay, even if you are able to think and identify a problem, that itself, see, Google gives you appointment for how do they test it? You have to present a problem, your local problem. See, wherever you are there, if you are able to give them a problem, okay, you may or may not be good at giving the solution, okay, but analytical, like what is the problem? First, you have to identify the problem and how it can be. Because most of the problems have open-ended. Open-ended means that there will not be one solution, many solutions can be given. Okay, so I think it in a different way, you think it in a different way, like that, you have different ways. So so that is more important, okay. So problem solving, that is critical thinking and problem solving. With that only it is there. Problem analysis, identify the problem. See, anything, see, we close our eyes, no, we don't make our students think. You have to say, they have to come out with the problems, what is inside their rooms, what is inside their institute, in their local community. If they are able to solve that itself, they are solving the world problem, right? So identify, formulate. So then identify, okay, you could have noted, okay, there is a problem. That's all, okay, problems. Then formulate, okay, this is a problem, like that you have to state how to bring it, okay, formulate. Then review research. Well, then you have to see whether somebody has solved this or approached it. Then there comes the research or literature or reviews, or there are many things you can. If it is a very small problem, the local problem, you have to go communicate them how it is they are doing it, how it has been done, or what is the problem. Analyze complex engineering problems, reaching sustained solutions using first principles of mathematics, natural science, and engineering. See, I'm just telling about this one. The same thing, no? So in our thing also. Why? So civil engineers, they have to think, right? Okay, we live in what type of land you are living. Are we prone to this natural disaster? Like that, anything, okay? So you have to come out with the solutions. Like if it is there, then definitely. So first thing is you have to identify, formulate, review literature, resource, literature things. See who is going to do it. Unless otherwise we bring all these in our teaching learning, it will be on papers, right? Fine. And then design development of solution. First is identification. And then I said, no, solution, design solution for complex engineering problems and system design components or process that meet. See, they should know, even if you want to take one case, small study, there are so much steps involved. You cannot just go solve some problem immediately. You have to meet this, let us say, some problem in the village, then village pandayat person, this person, everybody comes in. The student should be able to go to the field and work on it. Okay. So then then when they are working it, they have to apply the knowledge of the mathematics or science and science like that. Okay. The first principles of natural science, engineering science, whatever. You see what we learn, okay, to solve the problems, to live happily, right? So that peaceful living. So many problems are being created. How to solve these problems? So we have to apply our knowledge and skill to do this. That is what, right? So in that case, the third one is, first thing is we should have the knowledge. What is it? The basic mathematics, science, engineering, because we are talking about the engineering graduates. Second thing is you should be able to identify the problem. For identifying, you have to identify, then you have to formulate, do review, research, okay, analyze the problems using the first principles of mathematics, science, natural science, and engineering. See why so many years, like now only after 60, 70 years of independence, people talk, okay, toilets should be there. Why we never bothered about it? Okay, it's all like that, okay, right. So why, what is good, what is bad, why we should do like this, why should okay, there is some water problem, how we can solve the problem. So, and after so many things only we go, even after that also, no, like we don't go and really work for it and apply our knowledge and skill, right? So all these things. So there are so many problems there. Okay, even if you take one problem and work, and you just identify and formulate it, there are so many people to sponsor it, to work on it, right? So that is the problem analysis. You may, for getting fund and all, you may fail or may not, you may succeed, you may fail. That is different. But first attempt it, right? So there we can use our knowledge, whatever we have learned. Then the next is, the third one is a design development of solution. Design solution for complex engineering problems, and design system components or process that meet the specified needs with the appropriate consideration for the public health, safety, culture, societal, environmental consideration. So everything you have to take it. See, sometimes you want to, the civil engineer, there may be construction of dam or construction of something. So it may affect some other